Good afternoon, everyone. I call to order the special meeting of the River Falls Board of Education. This meeting has been properly notified. I would like to make a comment about this place and the timing of this meeting because I understand that some people have had questions about that. The board was interested in continuing the conversation from last Monday. We decided to rather do it this week rather than moving it next week, which means that it needed to happen on Thursday. Not all of the board members were available Thursday evening, so we did it this afternoon. At least 3 of the people at this table have another school district meeting starting at 4:15 in this building. So to help us with transportation and being able to make both of the commitments, it worked out to do it in this space, which is also conducive to this conversation. So that's exactly the reason of why we are holding the meeting at this time and in this place. We will move on to number 3, or hearing of visitors and delegation. Any member of the community who would like to address the board about an item that is not on the agenda is welcome to address the board at this time. Is there a microphone? Is it about an item on this agenda? No. No, okay. Then you may stand in your 2 minutes.
All right, I just wanted to say I find it very odd that many of you don't have children in our school district, that you're very happy to be making decisions for our children. We, the parents, know best for our own children, not you as elected officials. Since most of you don't have children in this district, it makes me question why you're on the board. If you want to be a voice for the people, why don't you run for county board rather than school board? We need a voice for the parents and the students. We, the people, are keeping scorecards of every government servant in Pierce County, and rest assured we will not forget which way you vote tonight. We will rally together next election to throw every single servant out of office who violates their oath and trespasses on the rights of the people.
Would anybody else like to address the board this afternoon? All right, then we are going to move in to number 4, the informational items.
I have more narrative, and I'm not going to read every slide. To be very honest, one of the reasons I like to put some things into writing and have it be a part of the public record, but I don't need to stand and read verbatim everything that I have on these slides. So today we're discussing face mask issue again. I'm going to start off by just mentioning that our community values and our emotions and our perspectives. I, for one, myself, am looking forward to getting back to a place and a time when more people respectfully discuss differences, and when community divisiveness can subside. We're having some problems with that right now. And that kindness and grace is the norm, even during times of disagreement. I'm so anxious for that time to return. Believe this, that all of us have the students' best interest in mind, including these board members. I give a review of conversation and a couple of failed votes that occurred on Monday. I'm not going to read that. I'm reiterating in the red here something that Stacy already said. And I'm adding another piece to her comment, that the date and time of this meeting was determined by board member availability. You mentioned some conflict of time, and in recognition of the responsibility to notify parents, the public, staff of any potential changes on this important topic as soon as possible. We're going to have people, no matter how this vote comes out, that are not going to be happy with it. And the sooner people know that, the better. So to the board's credit, I can understand and I appreciate it. The perception is that a meeting was held in the middle of an afternoon in a different place where it's typically been held. I get it, and I'm not being defensive. I'm just trying to explain the why it's here at a strange time. And Stacy elaborated on that earlier as well. So today, what I'm going to present is a recommendation for optional masks in grades K-12 and the why behind that. And I can tell you that the why behind it is not threats. It is not the kind of commentary that comes from people along that line. Frankly, it has nothing to do with the threats at all, as you'll see in this presentation. Rebalancing our risks. I purposefully use this slide again because many months ago I used a very similar slide in explaining that there's two sides of the same coin. There's COVID risks on one side, and on the other side, there's the student best interest, academic, physical, social, emotional, and so on. And we had to weigh that out, and we have been weighing that out. The side of the coin that we think we've done a commendable job with is the COVID risk mitigation side of it. We're in a different place now. When we look at the social emotional effects related specifically to the mask issue, these are some of the things that we're well aware of. And over here, we're also aware that COVID risks are in a different place than they once were, as illustrated in the green on the right. I'm going to show you several slides that I won't read them all. I'm just pointing something out specifically. The point is COVID numbers are lower today than they were in the past. I'm noting that an April blip over here with 42 cases, even though it appears as though we had a nice trend line going down that started really in February. And anecdotally speaking, I and others would credit some of this April pickup. It was over a 2-week period in April when we had 29 of those 42 cases were within what medical professionals and scientists would consider to be an incubation period, a cycle of people traveling, visiting, more exposure, and so on over spring break, and it actually goes through a couple of weeks of cycling through for that to have its full impact. Here's on the left side, a then and a now scenario. Left side, these are the numbers we were looking at with positive COVID cases. Back in November, we did a pivot because of an increase in numbers. The pivot was we shut down the high school. We did the same at the middle school for a while. I didn't get into all the numbers there. I just started with December, showing some of the numbers here through February 5th. And the notable difference over here starting on the 12th. Here's that take up in here with the thing I just talked about on the last slide. Then back December 7th, there were, you can see on this slide, the 7-day average. It says the River Falls School District, but it's really our boundary, and therefore it includes all populations. It's not the school district students. It's from a website, a state website. And to be clear, it's a little misleading when you go in and you find this link. I wanted to point out this is everybody in the district, regardless of your age. So that was a high number at that time. That was then. This is now. This is a summary. We were at 47.8 average per day. We're down to less than 1 per day. This was then back in November. You can see the numbers I circled over there. This is off the Pierce County website. New county cases per week. This is now. We've all heard about flattening the curve. We need to flatten the curve, and when we flatten the curve, things can change. To me, it looks like the curve has been flattened. This is now on a county level, same website, similar deal where I showed you the district boundaries. This is the county. So learning from the past, last summer we ran summer school, even amid the pandemic. We sent kids home in the middle of March. We said this is too dangerous. COVID numbers were minuscule. They climbed, as we all know, over the next several months. But in the midst of that, we held summer school. And we knew that there were some risks with it, but we took that very seriously. We cohorted kids, smaller groups, divided them out, sanitized, masked, the whole deal. And right now, the reason I'm pointing all of that out is that was good information for us to know whether or not we could have kindergarten, pre-K through 6th grade be in school, which we did decide on that. This board made that decision to have school 5 days a week, all year long. is something different, grade 7, 12, but, so the point in illustrating this is that now we're also faced with another decision that might influence our decisions to start the school year in September. My recommendation is optional math K through 12th grade for students and staff. We want a message that we will support and we will respect and encourage people want to wear a mask. It's not a bad thing. We want to make sure we're encouraging that. Layers of mitigation are going to continue. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to continue to do some other things that help to mitigate the spread of COVID. I've listed those things here. And then, as always, we're going to monitor and pivot if we need to. Whatever is voted on here today doesn't mean it stands forever. That's it. That's my recommendation.
I'm going to take a motion and I'm going to start our discussion with the board. I'll make a motion to follow the recommendation for optional math for PK through 12 students and staff, and then we got also the recommendations. Starting at June 7th, which is also includes the PK.
That was already voted on Monday, and I'm not suggesting any change to
No,
that.
okay, so that's it. So discussion, conversation.
So I had this question at the last.
She has to acknowledge you, but you can just raise your hand.
Plus anyone in the school, I mean, basically anybody in the school building.
Good point. That's the intent.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear.
That's good to point that out.
This is the board meeting. I will not be taking part in
My comment is, after reading that Monday night, my preference was in the industry recommendation that was reported on itself, and obviously what you can think about this. This is kind of information that's being laid out there. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with either the options. I'm certainly not comfortable with maintaining the status quo. So I'll suggest it.
This is maybe a limited side comment, but I just wanted to say while we're talking here. I think one of the observations I was supportive of this now, I'm supportive of this on Monday. But I think in that time, one of the things that's probably been most troubling to me, maybe even more so going back to last July, is about the only time that I think I felt this way as a board member is just seeing, like Jamie mentioned earlier, how not just a difference of opinion, but like a very disrespectful difference of opinion. I understand that people are passionate on both sides. The only thing that I would ask for in that situation is that people try to find a way to do it respectfully. It's been really, really difficult to watch what's really happened this last week and go back to July. And I'm not trying to sway anyone's position one way or the other. I'm just saying that it's been really difficult to watch and actually really disheartening. So I would hope that regardless of what happens, that we can try to keep that going too. Nobody's up here because they have a political agenda. Everyone who's on this board was on the board before COVID, or at least had their names run before COVID. There's nothing to be gained by having additional meetings and everything else that's gone along with this. And I think we're all ready for it to be done in one way, shape, or form. We probably disagree on exactly where that safety point is, but I trust from being up here with everybody that they're making those decisions based on what they feel is the best thing. And there's not something beyond that. And I just hope that won't be that.
And I would add the other comments. The one thing that this board always does is we try to find compromise. And with this motion, in my mind, by making masks not required or optional, doesn't mean that as a parent, you can't have the choice that your child still can wear a mask at school. It does give the choice for parents to not have their child. So that for me is the compromise. You can wear it or not with this. And we're not forcing anybody into a box. This is healthcare, this is personal, this is whatever. So this kind of really does give the choice back to parents and staff. And you think about it, we have 3,000 plus kids that go to the school district and 500 plus employees that work here. Then you add in all their families. This is not a one size fits all. So for me, this is the compromise. This does give it back to you to make the decision for you and your family. And especially, we've talked since the beginning of this pandemic that we were waiting for a vaccine to protect the elderly and people who had underlying conditions. It's here. And the people who wanted to get a vaccine certainly can. And I'm talking older, I'm not talking about the younger kids, but that's why I feel like the numbers, I don't know if the numbers are going down for whatever reason, but they're going down. And so this gives people the chance to do, to have your choice and your family health.
Are we online? I hope they're hearing us.
The mics that are on your table.
And that ability to pivot is not dependent on the board gathering. Administration has the responsibility and the authority to be able to do that on their own.
Had some football games, we certainly have the ability to flex, whether it's an activity, a school, we could go to mass today, for some reason, there was, a huge uptick, that type of thing. The other part, that I like about this plan is it's very clear that, we're going to support and respect and not, obviously, clearly not shame or that type of thing. Students that wanted to wear a mask or parents that wanted their child to wear a mask. We'll obviously be respectful of those choices from families. That's certainly something that can do. So I think it's very clear marching orders to the staff, because that is certainly an option.
Any further comments?
I have a question. So the board voted on it 3 days ago. I'm curious what's changed in the last 3 days?
From my perspective, this is me talking, not the board members. I felt like I felt the need to illustrate, as I did on the slides, the then and now scenario better than I had alluded to that earlier, but I didn't expand by actually having data on the screen. And so for me, I wanted an opportunity to be able to explain what do you mean by then and now. I understand COVID cases are lower, Benson, but can you show me some specifics? And so for me, that was important, not only in the messaging, as I said, but frankly, I'm not, my recommendation, quite frankly, is not swayed by the rude, disrespectful hammering that some people have imposed in recent weeks at all. It has everything in my mind to do with the numbers that I painted on the screen. Everything to do with that. We all know that public health, if they were at this table, they vote no. I guess me personally, I question kind of using some of Todd's words where I don't see the end line. Where is the sight line that how low do the numbers have to be when we make some of these changes? If not now, I just scratch my head and ask them. Pardon me?
Have you asked that question in public health?
When we get in the Harvard model of green would be the answer,
Right, we're low on the other model. We're almost there.
I respect their opinions. I respect their knowledge, which is greater than mine with the pandemic. But I too have been educated quite a bit on where we're at in relation to when I'm looking at and weighing out some of the things with our students and the impact and the effects that it has on our students. And I weigh that both sides of the coin right now on the risk factor. What I said there with the presentation is why I'm making the recommendation.
Since I've been in this camp, I guess, for some time, and I voted accordingly on Monday. Since Monday, was our opportunity to talk to some principals. There was a discussion about, if there isn't testing or not much testing for students who are quarantined, how do we know if they come back positive or not? In talking with some principals, there's still a lot of these kids are testing, so the incentive is to test. If they pass or come back negative, they're able to get back in school quicker. The majority of those kids that are quarantined or get quarantined through the close contact are testing to that early. So they're proving that they have a negative test. To me, that gives us the talk to that Monday. The other thing that I'm really, I don't want you to be excited, but I want this to be a trial so that we can look at how we proceed in the fall. If we don't, again, I don't want to use the word trial, but I can't help but use it. We have to find a way to get to mask-free in the fall. And if this is how we do it, and it works, or we do well the next time, mitigation, we need to do it. That's my rationale. So,
I would say what changed with me. No, that's a really change. I was very uncomfortable with all the options we discussed on Monday night. I was inclined to go this way when Todd mentioned it, but I wasn't going to do it without this kind of conversation and kind of background. And as a board, we don't get to have these conversations outside of a board meeting. We have them during a board meeting. So that's why it takes us so long to talk through this. And I was uncomfortable voting for a mass optional option without going through this kind of stuff, thinking about it some more, realizing that there are people on all kinds of backgrounds who have real concerns about whether or not their kids will continue. If you do mass optional or you do mass, they're trying to work through that. I get that no decision we're going to make here tonight, just like the one we made last July, is not going to be popular with everybody, and that's our job. So I'm not comfortable at all with their role because things are changing in the board. We haven't been able to find any other compromise that we can going forward. This is my fault.
I'm curious, why come in with K-12 instead of just K-12?
The proposal that I put on the table on Monday, in my putting together a recommendation to the board, I myself have been in a place of optional masks for probably 3 weeks, that we would start optional masks in the summer. But in talking with board members, I knew there was some angst going on and felt like what we needed to look at was some kind of a compromise. Someone said to me, referred to it as a Hail Mary, that looking for a compromise to put on the table under that premise that K through 5 not eligible for vaccines, keep the masks on there, go with optional 6-12, in the attempt to put out that compromised position. Obviously, I failed miserably at that. We didn't get to the promised land on that one either on Monday night. And so here we are back at the drawing board again.
These are the microphones. It's hard for people to hear, so I'm asking everybody to speak up.
I think the thing for me, yeah. A couple things. One, I think some of the disrespectful messaging that we've gotten makes me want to dig my heels in more than ever. Who's gonna just say that? So it honestly makes it harder for me to dig into things and swing my position because it has not been an exchange like it should be.
Could we just clarify that? I think you're talking mad about relationship and conversation at the school board.
No.
You're talking about things in the community.
Yes, absolutely. No, the exchanges on the board have been very legal. We work together. We can disagree and we can work through things. And that's been fantastic. If we all communicated like that, we'd be in a much different place right now. Not only as a community, but as a country probably. I have a huge hesitation with switching K-12 when the vaccine is only available down to 12 years old. And let me tell you why. It's not because I think everybody should get the vaccine. I have 3 kids that are going to be eligible for that soon. And I don't know if I'm going to get them vaccinated or not yet. We haven't decided. But I think to give families the option to have another layer of protection if they choose to me is important. And I don't know what my choice would be on that. To be honest, I'm shocked how hard it is to make that decision as a parent, being in that position. Right now, my son's birthday, he turns 12 on Saturday, so we'll figure that out. And has a trip planned, so that adds another layer, right? So time becomes really important, and so every family has all these different layers that go into it. So that makes it hard. That said, I have done a lot of digging on this. There has been some things for me that have changed since Monday. First of all, I called Jennifer, is that you here, Jennifer? And grilled her on summer school. So I have a pretty good idea. My kids have been in summer school, not last year with COVID, and they're not signed up this year, but we've done summer school as a family and have loved it. And I hope that we get back to summer school, how it's been, how we've been able to, Jennifer and her crew has really redesigned that in the last few years that we haven't been able to do. But I grilled Jennifer on exactly how summer school looks, but to really get a feel for what it was. Who's the staff? What's the amount of time we're there? Why are the kids coming back? Why are the numbers where they are with the summer school? What's the common denominator between the students? What do the spaces look like that the students are in? Blah, blah, blah. All these questions to see where I landed. Some of the things that I learned that I think are really helpful for me. The biggest cohort in any class we have during the summer is 16 students, which is significantly smaller than any classes that we have right now. Summer school this year is 8:30 to 12. In prior years, students could sign up for multiple classes, and some were there for an hour and a half, some were there for 3 hours. COVID has changed summer school this year, so it's different. But 8:30 to 12, they will be eating during summer school, which adds another layer to it to me, because of the social part of it. I inquired who the staff are that are working summer school. We have an exceptionally experienced staff, which makes a difference in how situations are handled, how social situations are handled, how bullying is handled, how differences are handled, how parents are handled. It makes a difference. I'm still worried about some of the social challenges. I'm still worried about the bullying. I feel better about knowing who the staff is. That matters. I inquired about communication, parents that want their kids to wear masks, how that'll be handled. And feel good about that. If a parent has a question about if their kid should be making a decision, they can communicate. Sometimes these masks are really nice. The kids that are going to school this summer matters. I'm learning that I might actually be too soft to be on the school board, just so you know. I hate that.
I think everybody has an idea about
I'm trying.
how seriously this is going to take on the summer.
Oh,
Important.
so what? To me, it's important who's going to school. The kids that are going to school have learning recovery needs. They have social and emotional needs. They have transition back to school needs. They have, there's a whole range of students that are coming that need summer school. But they need summer school. And part of them needing summer school is needing the relationships and needing the teachers, needing the time, whatever it is. But summer school is really important for the kids that are signing up for summer school right now. And the relationships and the teaching and the connections that you get at school are monumentally important for these kids right now. So I've been obviously thinking a lot about this, and that is different with masks than it is without masks. To be honest, I hate the idea of going against public health. I hate it. I like A.C. Snyder. I like that she's conservative. I like that she considers our community, the local numbers, and I think she's really, really smart. So it's really painful to have the potentially take a position against somebody that I know knows a lot more about this than I do. So I'm concerned about that. I also know that we talked about sports earlier in the year, and we're recommended against doing sports, and we needed to, and we did, and I voted against that. And you guys were right. Which also is a little painful for me to say, just so you know. We talked about music earlier in the year and how much kids needed that. And we went over how many seats, how much space, what room, can they turn this way, can we do that? And we ended up going forward with music, maybe later than music folks were happy with it, but we went with it. Again, it's a recommendation of public health. And it was really important for our kids. PE. Kids need aerobic exercise. My kids, I was worried they didn't have monkey bars for a year. I was a Montessori because monkey bars, I understand how important monkey bars are for the upper body strength of kids, right? And for their long-term health. And they are turning out fine. They're back in the monkey bars, not as good as they were before, but they're okay. But the PE, kids weren't able to get aerobic exercise because of public health guidelines, and we decided that our kids needed that, and that was really important, and that was the right thing to do. We have a really good principal at Greenwood. We have 41 kids in the middle school. We have a handful of kids at the high school. We have a really good administrative team. I really trust our teachers. I trust that parents will communicate with the schools what we need. We have enough space. These kids need our teachers, and they need the interactions with each other. We have 2 weeks. This is what's changed for me between Monday and now. I just want you to know that. So I have spent a little time on this. And after this meeting, I may start drinking heavily, I'm not totally sure yet. I'm decided, but, so we have 2 weeks. We start June 14th. We have 2 weeks of summer school. We have a week off because of the 4th. We have 2 more weeks. We couldn't be set up any better than that for this situation. Right? 2 weeks on, a week off, we can see what's happening. I trust that our administrators will pivot really, really quickly. We've seen that. I hope quicker than ever before that we will pivot if we need to. I trust Jamie as much as I try not to, I do trust Jamie. You know, I have to choose so I get myself together a little bit here. So okay. But my yeah, I guess we'll find out how I'll vote in a minute, but I just want you to know what's changed for me in the last 3 days.
What I'll say from my side is not much has changed for me since Monday, because I understood on Monday that we needed to be moving forward mass-free options for reasons that Cindy just eloquently explained. I was hopeful with the compromise solution because I thought that rather than removing everything all at one time, that it made sense to do it in a measured way. We would be part of it, we would see where we are, and we would move forward. It appears that that did not have one support, and so now we need to look for something else. It's really hard for me to go against the guidance of public health and the rule follower. But I also know that there have been times over this year when I have really stretched myself outside of my comfort zone, taking some risks about it, sports, and research. And so I think that part of what I feel is that I have to have some humility in recognizing that there are others like Jamie who have wisdom about ways to make this a right person. Do we have any further comments from the board? At this point, I'm going to take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion is carried 6-1. And at this point, if there's anybody in the community who would like to address the board about the topic on the board agenda, you may have the floor at this point. Please state your name and where your children are from.
My name is Lindsay Curtis, and I am a mom of 4 young children. I have a 3rd grader and a kindergartner at Westside, a 4-year-old at Jacob's Ladder, and a 2-year-old who can't wait until it's their turn to go to school. We made the personal decision to send our children, to learn in person this year as we felt that was what was best for their overall health and development. And we're very grateful to have that option. I closely followed the work of the school board for the past 10 months, and I want to take a moment to share a couple of thoughts. Please keep in mind these comments were prepared before the meeting tonight, but I think you will all be refreshed and encouraged. First, I want to thank the board members for your service to our community. This past year has been unprecedented in so many ways, and the time and energy that you have dedicated to making decisions in the midst of incredibly challenging circumstances is not lost on me. I also want to thank you for your commitment to engage in public civil discourse. If we've learned nothing else from this past year, it's that our community is made up of stakeholders who hold a vast spectrum of values, opinions, preferences, and ideas. To echo Cindy's comments, in a time when our country, our community, and even some of our families are divided and unable to have respectful conversations, we've managed to maintain the stability necessary to solve very complex problems presented by COVID. I also want to thank Mr. Benson personally for his leadership this year. Mr. Benson, you have maintained a measured, balanced, well-informed, and transparent approach in making recommendations to our school board regarding the COVID policies. You set the tone for administrators, teachers, and district employees to come together to create a nimble and flexible plan to bring education to our children this year. What an overwhelming responsibility that must have been to lead our district through this pandemic. Thank you for shouldering that burden for our community and for our kids. As we take a step back and consider where we were earlier this year and where we are now, I think we can all agree we're in a drastically different and far more optimistic place as far as COVID is concerned. Mr. Benson's data I'm not going to repeat some of the details that I listed here as they were reflected in the presentation. I thank you for those of you that have considered the times throughout this past year where you have gone against public health to make decisions in the best interest of students, looking at both sides of the coin. Some examples I listed in my prepared comments were the decision to open up in-person learning at the beginning of the year, allowing sports and bands to happen because it was what was best for the social and emotional development of the students in our district. And the fact that the CDC still wants kids that are unvaccinated to wear masks outside. To my knowledge, none of the kids at the elementary schools are wearing masks outside on the playground. So thank you for recognizing the fact that you have stepped out and gone against some of the recommendations made by the quote-unquote experts. I was interested to know now in hindsight if any of you would go back and change your decision regarding things like in-person learning, extracurricular activities, or optional outdoor masking. In my opinion, those decisions were the right decisions in spite of their conflicts with the recommendations made by public health officials. I want to close by saying that my children have spent an entire year learning, socializing, and communicating with faceless people. I understand the reason to mandate masks up to this point, but the bottom line is that there are social, emotional, and academic consequences to masking. Have you ever tried to teach a kindergartner to sound out a word with a mask on? Or tried to give a subtle redirection to an off-task student without them being able to see your facial expression? How about encouraging children to resolve a conflict without them being able to see the emotions on one another's faces? As a former elementary school teacher, I can assure you that those are just a couple examples of the daily interactions where masks inhibit children's learning and development. Please understand I'm not here to diminish or undermine the incredible work that our classroom teachers and specialists have done throughout this year. They have stepped up in so many ways to love, encourage, support, and teach our children. They did the very best they could given the circumstances they were up against. Thankfully, those circumstances have changed significantly in the past couple of months, and it's time to start pulling back the COVID mitigation strategies so you have the data and information from the summer months to properly inform your decisions for the back-to-school season that is coming up this fall. I wasn't able to make these ahead of your conversation, but so much of your conversation reflected my prepared comments, so thank you for that, and thank you for the vote. Yes. Yes.
I noticed you have been regularly your work and find out if that is the kind of feedback that is constructive to make a big significant impact.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah. Please tell us your name.
My name is Roxanne. And I don't have anything prepared. I wasn't prepared to do anything, but I just, after the meeting today, I just wanted to say a couple things that the comments about the disrespectfulness and the diversity dividing our school board and parents. I want to say thank you, Jamie, for putting together what you did with the numbers. I think that kind of opens up everything so people can be a little bit more transparent as to what your thinking is and where you're at with research. And that's what I even feel like, like I have somebody just voting and I'm not sure where they're at with that. So for me as a parent in making decisions like that, really having a good understanding as to what the health department is recommending and why. I'm a visual person, I'm a numbers person and statistics. And I think that tells a lot in the story, and maybe that can help kind of make us come back to a community. And Cindy, I want to say thank you for your vulnerableness. I certainly have a deeper understanding of where your mind is at and everything that you're thinking about, because I'm sure this is not easy when it's not just your kid. And I know that there's going to be some things coming down the road here that will probably have some dividedness depending on what happens. And I just ask that you as a board, maybe there's another type of something we could add into the platform so that, we're just not coming and talking to you beforehand and then we're kind of stuck in the chair not being able to say things or discuss things. And is there a platform of somehow we could do that so that we could kind of curve some of that going forward? Just a thought. I mean, this is just stuff off the top of my head of ways that maybe we could come together a little bit more and have a better understanding of what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And the parents' concerns, because I think as parents, we're kind of sitting here thinking that they just read it, or maybe they delete it, or what it is. And that makes it kind of hard. And this has been a very long year. And again, I do thank all of you. And I especially thank you for coming back together before the weekend, because I think this is something that could have escalated even further.
Well, thank you. Very useful. You can never have too much commitment. And so we should always be thinking about this. There are some limits within a public board meeting because ultimately we have work to do. And so we have to be able to look at those parameters. But I have noted the suggestion and I will.
Yeah. But thank you for the numbers.
Yeah. You gotta step, yeah.
I'm just gonna be quick.
Okay.
My name is Anna White. My oldest is at Greenwood and my youngest will be there this fall. I just want to say, talking about trusting the public health, I think that's something that's hard for us, not because of our local level, but because of the national level. And there is so much, oh no, that's not true. And then months later, oh, well, wait, okay, it was true, but we didn't want to agree with it, just everywhere. So it's harder for us to say, we can't trust that person, no, but maybe we can. So I think being here and you all being able to talk to us and respond, because I know some school districts aren't as interactive with the parents the way they should be. So thank you for helping us at the local level, at least gain some trust that you are listening to what the parents want.
So I think it's starting on June 7th, adults and children will have the option. Until that point, everything stays as it is. And with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.